5.14 is a communication from the mayor regarding the FY17 budget. Mayor Weinberger.
Thank you, President O'Dell. I appreciate the opportunity to take a couple minutes to talk about the FY17 budget. It is a budget that I look forward to us implementing. I think it is a budget that has a lot of good news in it, a lot of things we can all be proud of, and that represent some of the work that we've been doing together, the administration and the council, for some years. It is a budget that builds on the financial progress that we've made together and continues to strengthen our fiscal position while also including critical new investments in public safety, infrastructure, and city service quality. It continues to expand opportunities for all through investment in housing, the Housing Trust Fund at nearly double its historic rate, and through other new services. And it does all of this while, for the second year in a row, offering the taxpayers of Burlington, the property taxpayers of Burlington, a modest tax decrease. Let me say a little bit more about each of these items. Let me first focus on public safety. We are, like I think many communities, attempting to respond to a variety of new challenges. We are trying to respond to a growing and deeply troubling heroin epidemic. We are calling on our police to respond to mental health challenges more and more every year. The numbers have been staggering how those service calls have gone up year after year. And we are doing both of those things while at the same time really trying to respond to broad demands to change the way policing in America is done. And while I think there's a great deal of pride and appreciation for how the Burlington Police Department does its work, there have been calls for reforms here in Burlington as well. We've spent the last 2 years really attempting to respond to all those challenges and calls for change. And if I do in my memo just list a few of the many investments and changes that have happened over the last couple of years to just recap them quickly. We were one of the first departments in the region to deploy body cameras on all of our sworn officers. We have really made a major push this spring, and it will continue through the warm weather months that we often see uptick in crime. We have dramatically increased foot patrols and bike patrols in the city. We have created over the last year new community engagement and domestic violence positions within the police department, assigning sworn officers to those new roles. We, in this budget, are proposing to add an administrative position that will allow a sworn officer to get out from behind the desk and contribute to the presence on the street. We have stood up, we are in the process of standing up, and is budgeted for in this budget, a new community stat initiative, which really will seek to effectively coordinate and bring about collaboration among the many agencies that are working on some element of the opiate challenge. This kind of investment, and the list goes on considerably beyond that, but we won't keep going here. It is not inexpensive. It does require substantial dollars to do 21st century policing right. It's something the president reminded us when he issued his report on 21st century policing. And we have made substantial investments over the last 2 budget years at our police department. The net draw on the police department over the last 2 budget years, including this one, is a cumulative $1.6 million of new net draw on the general fund. That total dwarfs all other increases from other departments, and it does that for a reason. This is where we really, I think collectively, I know the council's been very active on all these issues, and the administration agrees, this is where we think new investment needs to be made, and we have been making it. We think it's likely to continue to require more of us in future years, and we are looking at ways of applying for federal matching funds that we have not applied for some time to help us with the continued investment we envision in FY18 and 19 for law enforcement investment. Another major area of I think we can see progress in this budget is in expanded infrastructure investment. This budget, again, includes a higher level of sidewalk investment over where we were just a couple years ago. Again, it's about 80% above where we were just a couple of years ago. There are a number of new positions being created and paid for in the capital side of the budget to help us succeed with these investments, increased investment in infrastructure we are envisioning in the year ahead. I will say this is one area where, with the passage of this budget, our work is not done. We're doing something here that we did last year, where we are proposing that we pass a budget that includes a substantial increase in capital investment, but we will need to come back for further council action before we can actually make all of that investment. We did that, people may recall, councilors may recall, this past year, where we passed an aspirational budget that we weren't certain how to fund about $1.2 million of when we passed the budget last June. We came back at around the end of the year when we confirmed we had surplus revenues, audited surplus revenues from the FY15 budget. We were able to come back and move forward with the new investment in the bike path, which incidentally is about to start. You will see new work happening down in the urban reserve in the weeks ahead as a result of passing that. We are looking to do something similar here, although the challenge is bigger. There, as opposed to about $1 million unfunded, we're talking about $8 million that we will need to come back and have a further conversation about. And we are looking forward to passing this budget, the operations budget, if you will, for FY17, so that we can come back and have that broader conversation that's been a long time coming about the 10-year capital plan and how we fund it. And that's something we envision moving to as soon as we finish with the FY17 budget process. The budget now before you includes significant new investment intended to save money and to continue to strengthen the city's finances. It has been a joint major priority of the administration and the council in recent years to strengthen those finances. We have made considerable progress in that area. We don't need to review that here, but the important point is we will keep making progress towards financial stability and strength with this budget. A few examples of that. The budget creates a new municipal risk management position that will assess liabilities in the city's operations and direct efforts to improve workplace safety and reduce claims against the city. We've had this type of position at BED for years. We have encountered some difficulty in inspections over the past year with VOSHA, the Vermont Occupational Safety Agency. It really has brought to the forefront the need to make this type of additional investment, and this budget does that. We will make, through this budget, additional investment in information technology modernization and the creation of new network and data positions. This will be year two, really, under what I think we'll look back on and see as a real kind of new era in city government, where we had a new way of overseeing and leading technology investments with the creation of a Chief Innovation Officer position. We have made considerable progress on this in the last year, adding a firewall, adding a help desk. This continues that progress with the addition of a new network position. It also, I think importantly, gives their Chief Innovation Officer, who's here tonight, Beth Anderson, and who I just have to say I think is off to a great start in this important role that really doesn't have a map that comes with it. She's had to figure this out. It gives her some more resources in the data and continuous improvement area as well, in that it adds a position there, and I think will really allow Burlington to join this revolution that's been happening in local government across the country, fueling decision making with evidence and data in a whole new range of ways. I expect this is a position that will pay for itself many times over, and not just pay for itself. It should also allow us to improve quality and measure and track the public value that we're adding, which is not an easy thing to get right, and having this additional tool will help us get it right. We are proposing as well in this budget, and I think it's something that we'll get some additional discussion over the next couple of weeks as we hopefully move towards the passage of a budget, something we do need to do before the fiscal year 17 begins on July 1st. We are proposing that $400,000 of what we project to be unspent contingency. The council and the public may recall, for the last several years, we've had $500,000 contingency budget lines that we now have, I think, our third year in a row of really having not needed to dip into that contingency much at all, and we're changing that with the future year. The budget years in front of you reduces those contingencies significantly down to $100,000 for the general contingency and $100,000 for a wage contingency. But with the unspent FY16 contingency, we are proposing to carry that over and invest it in some kind of labor management strategic analysis. We're seeing a similar management study as the Burlington Electric Department did as part of their what, by all accounts, I think right now appears to have been a successful reorganization, which has included significant investment. It was about a $700,000 investment that BED made in that kind of consulting help to help them sort out how a reorganization might work. But we have seen, and we had General Manager Lunderville present to us, that has worked. It is, and as it was guaranteed to work, and is projecting now multi-million-dollar savings going into the future. We think there is similar opportunity in some areas of other areas of city government, and look forward to talking to the council about how we consider investments to explore those opportunities. Quickly, the expanding opportunity continues to be a significant part of the budget. Again, we are keeping the Housing Trust Fund at nearly double its historic levels. I think the joint commitment to that the council and the administration had over the last year really proved itself to be valuable. From my perspective, over the last year, we needed those additional resources to be able to act quickly and move to save the affordable housing units at the North Avenue Co-op when this, really events caused there to be a need for quick action, and we had this flexible source of money to take that kind of action. I think the Housing Trust Fund looking ahead is going to be critical to the success of the new affordable homes that we expect to be created on the former Burlington College land. There's a greater need, I think arguably you could say forever than ever, for that heightened level of investment. Recently, the Champlain Housing Trust has really put out a challenge to all of Chittenden County to increase their commitment to affordable housing. This positions Burlington well to respond to that challenge. There is in this budget funding for the first time for some operations for a new community center in the Old North End, assuming that the Champlain Housing Trust is successful in their ongoing conversations about creating a new community center at the former St. Joseph's School. There is continued new investment in the library to help continue the progress we've seen in recent years. We've added a teen librarian in recent years. We've expanded the youth librarian role. We are now adding to some capacity in some other areas of the library budget to help ensure that librarians, our professional librarians, can do their job and really serve the public in the ways that they've been trained to do, and that we all, I think, hope to see the library experience to include, instead of their time being consumed with computer and other administrative tasks that can be better served in other ways, and this budget makes that possible. Final 2 points, just FY17 marks the third year that really has the CAO, Bob Rustin's stamp on the budget. He has brought from the start of his work these guiding principles of fair, factual, and forward thinking to the budget process. Having 3 years of that is really, I think, really changed the budget ethic and culture, and is a lasting contribution from the CAO to this effort. This budget demonstrates those principles more than ever. And then finally, again, All of this is accomplished in the budget that is before you, and that I hope you'll act on, if not tonight, and I don't expect it to be tonight at the final plan meeting on June 27th. The budget includes all of that, and again, it does it with, for the second year in a row, a modest decrease to the total municipal rate. This may be surprising to some taxpayers because when taxpayers get their bill from the city, the bill has not gone down, the invoice has not gone down over the last 2 years. Because what taxpayers get, of course, is an invoice that includes both municipal taxation as well as school taxation. The school tax rates have been quite significantly much closer to inflation in the last couple of years as well. The city tax rate has actually, if you can encompass the whole rate, has actually gone down. There are two main reasons for the decrease that taxpayers will see on this upcoming bill. And both, I think, are exciting in that they represent progress that we've made collectively in a couple areas. One is with respect to debt service. As a result of the progress we have made on our credit rating, we were able to refinance a significant amount of debt in the past year. That alone has saved the city about $130,000 a year going forward on our existing debt. The way our taxation system works, that translates directly, sort of automatically, if you will, into a lower part of the tax bill related to debt service. And then the other area where we have made some progress, again, because of enormous commitment of many city councilors as well as public employees and others who served on the retirement committee that met for the better part of a year, is for the second year in a row, we are seeing the city contribution to the retirement system, which had gone up quite dramatically over the last 15 years, for the second year in a row. It's actually, I think it's the third year in a row, second year in a row that it's been per agreement, and it stayed for the second year in a row per agreement. The city's contribution is again at $9 million, which is essentially where we were coming out of the prior years, and we'll have more opportunity to talk about that in the weeks ahead. We are looking forward to settling, we hope, the fourth and final collective bargaining contract that will really kind of close that chapter, and we look forward to talking about that further when that's done. Thank you, President Nadal. I hope I didn't overstay my welcome with this laying out of the budget, but it is a document that is substantial. It represents a huge amount of work on behalf of the CAO's office, on behalf of department heads who have been a big factor in the progress that this budget represents, both in their planning and in their implementation of the budget. And I appreciate the opportunity to, at some length, explain what I'm excited about that is in this document. Thank you, President Nadal.
Thank you very much, Mayor. We appreciate your walking through this detailed and informative memo, and indeed it's probably the most important thing that we do all year, so it's time well spent as far as I'm concerned.